Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Well, this week we're going to look at Psalm 116, and then next week we're going to treat Psalms 117 and 118 together. So just let you know what's coming up. So that'll be next week. And then the week after that, we're going to start Psalm 119. So I'm really excited and looking forward to Psalm 119. I love Psalm 119. I love to teach it. I love to read it. I love to pray it. It's just a great psalm. And so we will take our time. We're going to go through Psalm 119 a little at a time, just like we do everything else. So we'll be in Psalm 119 for quite a while. And so just, check back as you listen, because coming up in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about, today's Monday, so it'll be 3 weeks. 3 weeks, 3 weeks from today, we're going to be looking at Psalm 119. So today, though, and all this week, Psalm 116. Also coming up is I have, you know that I've recorded a reading of the Savoy Declaration. Well, I've also recorded a reading of the First London Confession of Faith. So if you are interested in that, you might also check that out. That's being published right now. So every day there's going to be a different section of the First London Confession. And so if you'd like to join me as I read through the First London Confession, please do so. You'll find that also in all the places where you find Daily Dose Radio. It'll be published on YouTube, Spreaker, and all the other locales where Daily Dose Radio is found. Also, if you haven't seen any of the YouTube shorts yet, I do a reading of the Baptist Catechism on YouTube. It's shorts. Every day there's one question answer that I do. So check that out if you get a chance. It's on YouTube. Just look for The Bible Bistro and then look for the shorts, and you'll find the catechism, the Baptist Catechism, being read by me, yours truly, one question and answer at a time. So check that out if you get an opportunity. Today, Psalm 116, we're going to do the introduction, and just down through verse 4. This I'm going to call the Praying Man's Psalm. This is a beautiful psalm. It's very first person. Over and over again, we have the psalmist identifying himself, saying, I. And the psalm kicks off here in verse 1. I love the Lord. So we're not surprised as we continue to read that this is very personal. We're reading a personal experience. We're reading this, as somebody's journal in a sense. So we have the introduction in verses 1 and 2. We have the problem in verse 3, his request in verse 4, and then we continue with the remainder of the psalm. We have the answer to his request in verse 8, and then from verse 9 to verse 19, 9 to 19, we have 3 strophes. They're little packages of 3 passages, strophes you could call them. They're almost like choruses. And they begin with the personal pronoun, I will do something. In verse 9, it's I will walk before the Lord. In verse 13, I will take the cup of salvation. And then in verse 17, I will offer to thee the sacrifice of thanksgiving. So we have these 3 different little groupings of verses. There are some repeated things that happen in each one, like those beginning verses. And then we have choruses or these little antiphonal things that are said in them that kind of remind us that we're dealing with a congregational piece here. It's personal, and yet I think it's also intended to be used in a congregational setting. We'll talk more about that as we get down into the psalm this week. But let me begin here. this psalm of thanksgiving for salvation through prayer. This is the praying man's psalm, and I'm going to read today verses 1, 2, 3, and 4. I love the Lord because he has heard my voice and my supplications. Because he has inclined his ear unto me, therefore I will call upon him as long as I live. The sorrows of death compassed me. The pains of hell gat hold upon me. I found trouble and sorrow. Then I called upon the Lord. O Lord, I beseech thee, deliver my soul. So you notice the introduction here is verses 1 and 2. This kind of sets up for us the overarching, theme of this psalm. I love the Lord because he has heard my voice and my supplication because, so two becauses here, because he has inclined his ear to me, therefore I will call upon him as long as I live. So he's telling us what this psalm is about in verses 1 and 2. It's a psalm about prayer and the Lord's answer of that prayer and his response to the Lord's answer to that prayer. Then in verse 3, we see why he prays. He says, the sorrows of death compassed me, and the pains of hell gat hold upon me. You don't want the pains of death to get hold, do you? No, but lots of us understand that, don't we? We understand how the pains of hell can get a hold of us. I found trouble and sorrow. So he's got a problem. It's a deep problem. Sorrows of death, pains of hell, I found trouble and sorrow. So is this sickness? Is this some other affliction? Is this just conviction of soul over his sin? Could be all of those things all rolled into one nice little neat ball that he's dealing with. But after he identifies this as his problem, he says, then I called upon the name of the Lord. O Lord, I beseech thee, deliver my soul. So it's not necessarily the body that's being delivered, but it's the soul, because the soul is being affected by the affliction. Whatever that is, the sorrows of death, the pains of hell, the trouble and the sorrow. It's all soulish. And he prays to the Lord, please deliver my soul. What a beautiful prayer that is. Simple, direct, and to the point. Well, come back tomorrow, and we're going to read verses 5 through 8, and we're going to look at the Lord's answer. And there's a little bit in here that's congregational, because we hear some wonderful theology about the Lord. And so we'll talk about that tomorrow here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.